This is my grandfather, Arthur Blockley, who was born in Preston, Lancashire in 1882. My grandmother was born Alice Langridge in 1890 in Uckfield, Sussex. My mother, Jenny, was born in 1910 at the Curragh Barracks near Dublin. And my uncle Jim was born in 1913 at the Colchester Barracks in Essex, which is where they all were on New Year's Day in 1915. When Arthur joined the army 2 months before his 16th birthday, he was posted to South Africa, where the Second Boer War for independence from the British Empire had just begun. With Arthur's battalion, the total number of defenders of Mafeking came to just over 2,000. However, they were soon surrounded by 8,000 heavily armed Dutch settlers. The siege lasted 7 months before the garrison was relieved. Baden-Powell at the time was just another officer, according to Arthur. Robert Baden-Powell instantly became a national hero as soon as news reached Britain and Canada of how he had organised a successful defence of Mafeking against all odds. The invaluable intelligence the scouts had gathered during the Boer War was Baden-Powell's inspiration for forming the Scout movement in 1907. On Arthur's return to England, he was stationed near Folkestone in Kent. There he met a 17-year-old at a dance in the hotel where she was working. They danced, fell in love and got married. As Alice was pregnant at the time, she was allowed to accompany Arthur on his second posting to Ireland, despite the fact that the struggle for independence from the British Empire was really hotting up. They moved into married quarters at the infamous Curragh Barracks near Dublin. Alice gave birth to my mother, Jenny, the following August in 1910. When Alice was expecting her second child, she returned with Jenny to England with the other wives and children, as it was already too dangerous for them to stay. Strikes, demonstrations, shootings and arrests were culminating in what would become known as Bloody Sunday in Dublin in 1913. None of the atrocities he'd experienced committed by both sides in South Africa or Ireland had prepared Arthur for the horrors of World War I that started the following year. He was posted directly to Belgium without being able to visit his children or a very worried Alice in England on the way. Germany and Austria had already invaded most of Belgium, but they were stopped in their tracks by Belgian, British, French and Indian troops defending Ypres, or Ypres as the French or Flemish speaking locals called it, or Wipers as Arthur used to say. But it was an extremely beautiful cathedral city in anyone's language. After weeks of bombardment, when up to 20 shells per minute were landing on Ypres, many lives, homes and buildings had been completely destroyed. But on Christmas Eve 1914, the most joyous, remarkable, totally unplanned and simultaneous event ever to take place in any war happened across the trenches of Belgium and France. Both sides decided that the killing had to stop, apart from the Prussians and a few Austrians, such as a young unknown corporal, Adolf Hitler. The first Arthur knew of the truce was when he heard Stille Nacht being sung from the trenches opposite. The French and Belgians responded with Douce Nuit, followed by the British with Silent Night, and then along with the Indians, Abide With Me. They all slowly left their trenches to meet in no man's land, exchanging cigarettes, chocolate, wine, songs and stories, which they understood perfectly. Not knowing each other's language was absolutely no barrier at all. They showed off photos of their wives, children or girlfriends. When a soldier, who couldn't have been more than 15, showed Arthur a photo of a very attractive but mature woman, he asked, putting his foot in it yet again, "Isn't she a little old for you?" "Oh, but that is meine Mutti," laughed the Austrian. They returned to their trenches before it got too dark and cold, but not before burying their comrades who had been lying where they fell days or even weeks earlier in no man's land. On Christmas Day, the British lost at football to the Germans. "They had half the Bayern Munich team playing for them," complained Arthur. "If only we'd had the Cardiff boys playing for us," wished a Welshman. "Over half our team joined up in one go," said a proud Hearts fan, whose team had won the first 8 games when the Scottish First Division was cancelled by World War I. Somebody said, "Don't worry if they beat us at our national sport, because we're going to beat them at theirs." Somebody else said, "True, but we're fine ones to talk." Arthur asked a Belgian officer, "Why aren't you playing?" He replied, "It's not your land that's been invaded." He explained to an embarrassed Arthur that he had heard nothing of his wife or children for the 5 months that Brussels had been occupied. Arthur told him that he too was worried about his younger brother. He was unaware that Albert, at the age of 28, had died whilst helping the citizens of Ypres to escape the First Battle, where over 50,000 people died. Over 250,000 refugees, mainly grandparents, mothers and children, sailed from Belgium to British ports in local fishing boats. They lived with and were looked after by families from all over the United Kingdom. But as soon as the war ended 4 years later, the British government sent them back to Belgium, even when their destroyed homes and towns hadn't yet been rebuilt. One morning, neither side reappeared, and by that afternoon they were exchanging shells, gas and bullets again, as if nothing had happened. But it had. The furious generals and politicians on both sides tried to cover up the Christmas truce, rather than using it as a starting point for peace negotiations. So there would be a further 4 years of war, and over 1 million men, women and children had already died in just the first 4 months.